Welcome to the Root of Power podcast, where I teach you how to step into your power, find alignment, and create a life that you love using holistic methods, interviews with industry leaders, and inspiring stories from people who know that true freedom is found within. I'm your host and health and wellness bestie, Amanda Chills, and I'm so proud of you for choosing to step into the root of your power. Y'all, I hope you are ready for today because Tori is one small chick who is going to have a huge impact. She is young to have so much wisdom, and y'all are going to benefit from her. We are going to talk about how your life is actually driven by your values, why you have to take action in order for things to change, and how to get some real clarity on what you are wanting out of life. So, shameless plug, if you want to start changing things, you can head to my website and get my free guide on changing your life, www.livemyhappyhealth. And without further ado, here is Tori.
Okay, hello, podcast fam. You guys are in for such a treat today because Tori, if you guys know me personally, like you know that my brain is a bag of cats 24/7. Tori is also very cool in that way where she's like super creative, like loves weird analogies. She's just super dope. So listen to this episode or don't, but like definitely listen to it. If you don't, I'll hate you forever. You're about to get so much knowledge and like empowerment. So Tori is a mindset and empowerment coach, helping people get past their mental blocks and like really figure out what they want to do, what's getting in their way, and how to get there. And she is like killing the game, guys. So she is early on in this game, but like you guys are getting prime access because she is going to just totally take this world by storm, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. So welcome, Tori. Thank you for your time.
Hi, yay. Thanks, Amanda, for that awesome intro.
Yeah.
I'm stoked to be recording with you.
Mm-hmm.
Such a pleasure, so much good stuff. And just so great to be in this space of just empowerment, leadership, mindset, all things just kind of up-leveling and becoming your best self. So I appreciate you so much for holding space for me.
Yeah, dude, they don't even know what they're in for, but like I'm excited, pretty excited for them. Like I'm just pretty excited for them. So tell us about you. How did you get into this type of work? Like you have kind of a cool story. So go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because I think for a little while people would ask me like what my story is. And it was a very tough question for me because I'm like, what the heck is my story, right? So oftentimes we feel like we need to have a big catastrophic event or a thing in our childhood that drives us to have a why or a story. And sometimes it can actually be a handicap for us to think that we have something worth sharing or talking about. And so for me, I am 25 and was an athlete my whole life. Played sports since I was 8. Well, actually, since I was 4, and competitively since I was 8. And so I think I really charted a path that centered around my identity being linked to sports, to showing up in my power was almost inextricably intertwined with movement and my ability, my output on the field. And I played through college, right? So I think my identity was always linked to external things. And I found myself in the last few years when I graduated, it was really hard for me because I ended up taking a job at a sought after corporation that had wonderful clout, and everyone in my family was like, take this is amazing, this is cool, do it. And I was just like everyone's telling me to do this, like sure, right? I say all this because it's all part of why I'm here. I started that job and I kind of just went full tilt like I typically do, right? 0 to 100, I don't know in between. And I realized pretty quickly, oh God, like this is not making me happy. But I didn't know what else to do because I was like, this is the only way I can be successful, right? Came from a family of entrepreneurs and a sister who's going to be a dentist, right? So high achieving people. And I'm like, I have to do this. I have to measure up. And for so long, I had everybody telling me what I was doing. I had coaches saying, hey, this is your next goal. And all of a sudden I'm spit into the world, and I'm like, oh no, like, what am I doing? And so basically I ended up really unhappy, really anxious, stressed, confused.
What was your schedule like? Because so I live in like rural North Carolina. So even like I've never had a normal 9 to 5. Even when I worked like counseling jobs, when I didn't work for myself, like I was doing in-home. So it was really, really varied. I would sometimes work 9 to 9. I would sometimes work 1 to 6. And then when I worked at a methadone clinic, it was 6 to like 1 in the afternoon. So I don't know what it's like to have like a 9 to 5. Was yours a 9 to 5, or like, was it really like 7 to 9? Like, what was the schedule?
Definitely not a 9 to 5. Definitely corporate in the sense of having like a 9 to 5, but it was very much like 7 to 7, right? Like it's
oh my God.
It was like very long days, flexible, I would say, in how you structured it, but very demanding. It's almost like you're on call.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that sounds really stressful.
Intense. It was not only demanding time-wise, but it was very rigorous intellectually, and also tricky because I was working with many different managers across many different content types, not knowing what the fuck I was doing, and trying to like figure it all out and show up really well and perform really well. And I'm rated every month on how I'm doing. And it was just so much.
Yeah. That's a lot. So you end up having a ton of anxiety. You have no time for yourself because you're working 12 hours a day, even if it's flexible, quote unquote, like it's not. And so how does that, so I talk a lot about alignment and the space between where you're in alignment and where you're happy, and the space where you're miserable, and however big that space is how big your misery is. So I can imagine that you were like, ooh, I hate my life. So, and it sounds like that led you to saying like, what the fuck am I doing here? So tell us about that.
Yeah. So it pretty much started with like me being so in my own way and anxious that I couldn't really show up at all in a day. Like my relationship suffered from it. My mental well-being suffered from it. And I'm a fitness wellness lover. So that's a cornerstone of who I am. And it's been that way for a while. And that started to falter too. So I think it was a wake up call for me to say, I need help. Like I need.
When did you know? Like, when was that moment where you were like, this is not okay?
I think when the people around me really started to reflect back to me that I was not okay.
Like they said it to you.
Yeah. Like my boyfriend was like, this is not working. And my mom and sister being like, hey, like maybe we should think about getting you someone to like help you get through some of this. I think the turning point though was I had a mentor of mine who is a coach of mine for soccer, and I reached out to her because she was somebody who supported me for years, and she actually has her own psychology practice working with athletes.
Awesome.
Yeah, wonderful person. And I got coffee with her, and I started telling her this, and she's like, girl, hey, you are anxious, like you need a little help. And it's like okay to admit that, right? Weakness is not admitting you need help or surrender to releasing.
And I think too, like we get like what you were talking about in the beginning where you said this is the way to be successful, this is what everyone defines as success, this is what everyone is telling me I need to do, but it's totally out of alignment with you. But you decide, like I tell people all the time, like you just make shit up and decide it's true. So you just like decided that you have to stay here and this is the only way. And it's like, that's just literally like, you can just change jobs. I mean, within a framework, right? If it's a privilege to be able to just quit your job and figure out something else. Like not everyone can do that immediately, but you can plan to quit your job. You can do something else, essentially is what I'm saying. But we just like get so in our own head about it.
But we create truths that are actually rooted in other people's desires for your life, not yours. Right?
Talk about that.
Yeah. So I think I got that awakening in terms of realizing that I was living someone else's projection of a reality for me through the work, right? Through investing in coaching, through investing in therapy first, then coaching, then really deep intuitive healing. And that's why I'm a huge like lover and proponent of coaching, right? But I think that what it showed me was that, hold on, pump the brakes here. Whose reality am I living? Like, who's deciding that success has to look like X, Y, and Z? Why do I feel that like, what lights me up is like deep conversations, movement, wellness, empowerment, like personal development. Like I feel obsessed with learning from these amazing entrepreneurs and like leaders in mindset. Like, hold on, like why can't that be my path? Right. And so I started to question, and the questioning really led to awakening.
So you were having all these questions while you're working a corporate job, and you decided, like, now you work for yourself. So tell us a little bit about that journey. Like, how was it to leave? Because it's comfortable. You have a steady paycheck. You have healthcare. You have the status. Like, what was it like to leave that and to decide to jump in for yourself? Because I have also, I think a lot of people in like I think you attract people that also low key maybe think about having a side hustle or their own business or something like that. But even for people that are like, I'm in this space and it's comfortable and I know it's not right for me, but I want to do something else, whatever that looks like. So how did you, like, what was it like leaving that for you?
Well, I'll start by saying it took me 2.5 years to do that. So it clearly was a mountain that I had to climb, and it wasn't just, oh, I hate my job, bye, right? That's not how it went for me. I think I, with full transparency, began to understand and get awakened to a new realm of consciousness, meaning I started seeing my life extraordinarily differently than I had previously seen it, which allowed me the space to show up at my job very differently than I had been, right? I knew, I started to learn, I'm like, okay, I know this isn't aligned. I know this isn't aligned. How can I start releasing all of this self-imposed pressure in the interim period that I'm putting on myself and get through and create those mindset hacks and create those practices that allow me to show up and disassociate from this pressure that I'm putting on myself and actually fuel myself while I know, okay, hey, I'm not going to be here forever. Let that be a release for me. Let that be the thing that gives me peace, right? So that 2.5 year path.
This is so good. So good. Keep going. It's so good.
That 2.5 year path was a lot of self-teaching, right? Studying my mind, studying myself, becoming a student of how I could function and feel powerful in a day, even though I'm in a job that's out of alignment. And then, as I continue to work with coaches to help me work through this, right? You can have all those tools, all those things, be that version. But until you have that mirror, which is what a coach is, really reflecting back to you things that you may not be able to see, it's like that change is almost catalyzed by that mirror. So, with the coaching, with my own work, finally led myself to a point where, one of my coaches said, hey, listen, you've made so much transformation. You've changed so much, but you're still actively choosing to walk into something every day that's out of alignment. So you're kind of tapping yourself off to where you call out. Exactly. So that was like, okay. I keep saying I want to make change, and hey, I'm still not doing the big scary things.
Yeah.
So
like shit or get off the pot.
You got it. You got it. So finally choosing to step back was a big deal for me, but it was something that was very intentional. And I think that was the key. I think a lot of people my age, in that 20-something time frame, believe that the reason for their deep-rooted lack of fulfillment or low energy is from the job itself. When in reality, it's actually coming from a lot deeper within. And so for me, I was like, I'm not going to quit this job to just dive into another one. That's not going to solve my problem. Like, I need to quit this job and take a step back and really decide with intention what's next, right? And so, there are financial components to it. Like, I had
100%
thought through how I could do that, right? Saving a little bit of money to be able to allocate to a time of discovery. But at the end of the day, we can talk about all the change we want to have until we do it and actually act. That clarity won't come through.
Right. And I'm sorry, can you repeat what you just said? Because that was so good.
I said, until we act, the clarity won't come through, because action drives clarity, which drives transformation.
People can't see it on the podcast, but I'm dancing. Like, yes. So many people, and I'm sure you're seeing this too, stay in analysis paralysis or like perfection paralysis. And I see this all the time, where they're just like, what's the right choice? What's the right choice? What's the right choice? And I'm like, jump off a fucking bridge. Like, I don't know, dude, there is no right. Like, don't literally, listen, people, don't literally jump off a bridge. Like, I did not tell you to actually jump off a bridge. Don't do it. But like, that's where that thought process leads. Like, you want to jump off a bridge because you're like, nothing will work. No shit, you're not doing anything. Like, and what I tell people, and I'm sure you're seeing this, people who are just, I have to make the right choice. I have to make the right choice. But how do you know what the right choice is without trying a choice? Do something. And if you hate it, don't do it anymore. And if you love it and it's working for you, well, great. Now we know what works. But
inaction is still a choice.
Yes. Yep. Not making a choice is a choice. So when you see that, when you deal with that, what do you do with people? How do you coach them through it?
Yep.
So, I love it.
I think that while action is the catalyst for clarity, there does need to be a little bit of work that happens to be able to understand what action you need to take. And so
like action has to be intentional. Not just like, I'm trying everything. Like, no, don't do that either. There's a balance. Yeah.
Exactly. So the intentionality behind the action is the place that I start, right? I start with, what do you value, right? A lot of times we want to set a goal or make a decision, and then like see things happen in our lives and create change when we don't even know what we value, right? Like your values drive your life. Like your values are the roadmap to your alignment, right?
If you're living intentionally.
And so, but people aren't. People are so separate from their values. So if I have a client that comes to me in a space of, oh my God, like I'm overwhelmed, I'm not happy, I need to make change, but like I'm stuck in this like whirlwind of overwhelm and confusion and I can't do anything right. I say, okay, hold up. In each like, what do you value, right? Is it ease? Is it,
how do you figure that out? Like, that's a good question. If people are like, okay, yeah, like you guys are talking about values, that's really great. But when I ask myself, what do I value? I don't get any answers. So how do you get that? How do you help people figure out what their values are?
I tell people, take a blank sheet of paper and a pen, and I want you to think about something that makes you feel really good. I want you to think of all the things. It could be going to a coffee shop that you love and sitting outside reading a piece of newspaper. I don't know if people still read newspaper. I don't, but that's what came to my mind. It could be conversing with a friend, right? I say, take that sheet of paper and write out what you like to do. Write out something that makes you feel alive inside. From that list, I want you to read each of those things, and next to it, write, what's the emotion that comes up for me here? Is it joy? Is it excitement? Is it ease? What is it, right? Then you get a list of all of these energies and you say, okay, cool. What of these energies do I really value? Like, what do I value, right? And from there, we start to wean it down. We start to pick your words. I love giving people 4 words. 4 words that they're pillars of the things, right? Wellness, connection, movement, and mindset. I don't know what they are for you. It's going to depend, but that is your roadmap, right? Picking a job, picking a new relationship, picking a new whatever, filter through those 4 things, right? That will help you create that alignment because you know, hey, I value these 4 things. So any career I have really needs to align with those things. So that's kind of like a very base level way that I help people to get clear on that.
But a lot of people need base level because I don't know if you experience this, but I have a lot of people who are so disconnected from their bodies that they literally don't even question. Like, I say, how do you feel about this? And they say, well, I think. And I'm like, I don't give a damn what you think. How do you feel about it? And they're just like, no. like, no, like they have no idea what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I think that I tell clients, I say, when you are on the brink of a decision and you have two options and you say one out loud, does your body contract or does it expand? Right? That is your tool right there. Like,
repeat what you said because it's so good.
It's so simple. We overcomplicate it. Your
They'll
body
literally repeat what you said because they want people to hear it again.
When you're on the brink of a decision and it's one or the other and you voice them out loud, does your body contract or does it expand?
That's what does a contraction mean and what does an expansion mean for people who don't know?
Contraction means, ooh, I get tight. Your shoulders literally turn inward. You feel like almost suffocated. It's like this feeling of smallness, of tightness. And expansion is like, it's like, let's think of contraction as that, like, inhale, holding your breath, and that expansion is
like gross. Yeah. Yes. Oh my God. Liam, this is so good. People don't even know yet. Like, it's so exciting. So you teach people to get connected with how they're feeling, and that, along with their values, guides alignment. And then it sounds like you start saying, like, okay, like, what do we do with that now? Like, what do people do with that when they say, okay, well, here's what I value, and when I'm making a decision, if I contract, that's probably the wrong decision. You don't feel good about it because your body protects you by going inside. That's what the contraction means. You're bracing yourself. Where the expansion, you're literally opening up your heart to it, right? So when people start figuring that out, then what do they do? So they've got their values, they know something is wrong, they know they're out of alignment. Then what?
And we look at your life, right? We look at all the categories of your life. We say personally, financially, career, spiritually, health and well-being. We look at the buckets and we say, cool, let's do a little current state and future state analysis, right?
Okay.
In each of these buckets, let's take physical well-being as an easy example.
Sure. Yeah.
Current state, how do you feel? On a scale of 1 to 10, give me a number, right? And this is an exercise I have people write down. So say it's a 5, cool. What are the emotions that you feel right now when you think of your physical well-being? Is it weakness? Is it heaviness? Is it, what are the emotions that come up, right? We do a similar exercise on the flip. Where do you want to be? Ideal you. Where is he or she hanging out? Are they at on a scale of 1 to 10? Are they at an 11? I like to coach people to an 11. Most people want to be at a 10. Let's take it up a notch and make it 11. Yeah. What are the emotions?
Like amplify the best parts. Yeah.
What are the emotions at an 11 for you? Are you strong? Are you empowered? Are you connected? Right? Like, I have people go through that exact exercise on every level of their life. And then that is a huge guide to our goal setting, right?
Talk about a mirror. Like, I can imagine being a client and being like, I'm so out of alignment with the life that I want. And I think the beautiful thing about a coach, and I want to hit on this a little, is the goal of a good coach, because there's lots of shitty ones out there and we won't, whatever. But like, a good coach holds that space for you compassionately, where it's not a judgment that you're not in alignment. It's not a judgment that you're not living your best life. Like, people don't know what they don't know. And being able to say, like, yeah, this is a huge discrepancy, but we're not going to beat ourselves up about it. We're just going to accept that, like, we're not where we want to be. And we're going to work towards where we do want to be without the shame and the blame and the judgment and the should haves. And I'm a loser and I'm a failure and I'll never get there. And all of those things that people carry around. And so many people like grow up being shame motivated, that it is a totally different paradigm where you're just like, you don't have to beat yourself up. You can just change a behavior. And it's a lot more, my brain's not working, effective. Like, it's a lot more effective than like if beating yourself up to change worked, all of us would be freaking flawless. But it doesn't work. Like, it doesn't work and it sucks. It makes you feel like shit. So this sounds like something you come about, which, by the way, is a very specific skill set. Like, to be able to hold space for that, for someone compassionately, is a very specific skill set that a lot of people don't have. So what is it like when you're taking someone through that and they're just like, oh my God, like, I'm so far out of alignment. And you're just like, okay, cool. Like, let's work. Like, so they figure it out. They're out of alignment. You hold up a big mirror because it's on paper. They can't lie now. Then what?
I say, it's funny you asked me this question because I had a client recently go through something similar as a result of this exercise. And the first thing that I said,
they did like the shame and the beat up.
Yes, exactly. Did this exercise and was like, this is like scary. And I'm like, hey, it's not scary. But the first thing that I said was, we love to focus on the outcome before we get there. And I said, future is an illusion, because when you get to the future, it's actually still the present moment. And there's a future, right? So let's pump the brakes on the outcome. And let's focus on where we are now and say, this is really impactful, because guess what? This is your roadmap now. We get to change these things. These aren't genetic. This isn't something you cannot change. This is in your power to change. And so I take them through the next stage of how can we, it's a two-pronged approach, right? How can we on a daily level create one action that is going to hit one of these future state emotions? For example, physical well-being. If I want to be stronger at 11, me on that scale of 1 to 11, can I do 5 push-ups every morning after my cup of coffee each day and increase by 1, right? That's a tiny action that you could do daily. The other side of it is, okay, cool. Let's make our goals, right? Let's take this exercise and say, great, if I want to be at 11 in my personal well-being by, 3 months from now, I want to have stronger arms. I want to be able to do 1 pull-up. Cool. Let's reverse engineer it, right? So that's kind of the flow on a daily level. How can we incorporate? And on a bigger macro scale, how can we get you there? I also would be lying if I didn't say meditation is a huge tool of mine.
Sure.
I take
Talk about it. Why?
Because this thing, aka what I'm pointing to, which is for those who can't see it, the mind, is what drives our physical manifestation, right? The way we think is the way that we are, the way that we present. And so therefore you can change your physical reality. You can change the actual things that we see with our own 2 eyes by simply using your brain and your mind to see it first inside. And so I know that to get there, to expedite the growth that people often want, because, right, like we want the quick fix, which by the way, you're never going to get a quick fix, but one way to
kind of detox tea, but don't.
Seriously. Anything worth doing takes time. But I think that, for expediting things.
So sorry, hang on.
You're good. Okay. Anything, meditation and deep subconscious work, visualization work, I have found through my own experience, right, can change things drastically. If you every day get into the energy of the version of you that you want to be in your mind, you will get closer and closer to feeling it in real time.
Okay. So visualizing, like if you visualize you at an 11, then your body starts saying, oh, we're already there. And it makes it easier to start showing up as that person.
Yeah. And I think the trick though, and I know this is a little bit high level or like a little bit kind of esoteric, if you will.
We love the woo-woo. It's okay. Go ahead.
The woo, I guess woo-woo. Yeah.
I love the woo-woos.
There's not too much woo, never too much woo-woo for me, but I think manifestation is a hot word right now, but I think what gets lost in the translation of manifestation is the crux of it, which is actually getting into the emotion of the thing before it happens. And that is the thing that I'm talking about here.
Can you explain what that is?
Yes. So for example, if I am in a morning meditation doing a day visualization, right? So visualize, close your eyes and visualize how your ideal day would go.
Okay.
You can visualize your day and say, okay, I wake up, I have a cup of coffee, I get on a meeting and it goes really well. You can do all that, right? But if you're not saying, I wake up and I feel at peace. I walk through my morning and I drink my coffee and it feels grounding. I get on a call and I connect with the people I'm talking with and I feel light. I feel sharp. I feel focused. And as you feel that, right, you can actually make your body, right? We were talking about how much the body is the guide. Physically feel the emotion as you're visualizing this. that's how it manifests.
Okay, side note, this is another freemium that you need to offer, is like a morning visualization meditation. By the way,
So
we can film one. We can film one and people can do it and it'll be dope.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
It's in the works. I mean, meditations, I'm actually in the process. Fun fact, spoiler for all you peeps out there. Meditations is going to be something that's part of what I offer through my work.
Excited for you.
In the process of doing all of that. So yes,
hell yes.
It's power.
Y'all heard it here first.
Yeah.
So you go through, so the part that people miss, and I'm going to add a second part. The part that people miss is bringing up the emotion that they're feeling when they're visualizing their dream life, their dream day, hitting their goals, whatever. So they need to bring that emotion about while they're visualizing doing that thing. So if you visualize yourself hitting your time on a 5K, or spending the morning having breakfast with your kiddos, or like engaging with your partner, you want to like also feel the emotions that you want in that moment. The other thing that I find people miss is they'll say, well, how do I manifest this? And then they don't want to change a behavior.
Yep.
And it's like, you can't just sit around and wait. And the universe is like, here you go. You're ready for it because you wished for it. Like, you gotta work for it. So that's the other part that I find people miss. So the goal, it sounds like, with the way that you're doing it, is that you feel those things, you get into that state, and it makes it easier because you already know how you're going to feel then. So now you're tied to that really good feeling thing, and it makes it easier to like change the behavior into what you want.
And the reason behind that is scientific, because the brain literally doesn't know the difference between an imagined thought, an emotion, and a real one. They're synonymous. So therefore, if you can create it first in your mind, your body and your brain like think it's actually happening.
Right. Which makes sense, because you know people, I know people, everyone knows people who get nothing but shit in life because that's all they focus on. They think about how bad it's going to be, and they're always afraid, and it ups their anxiety, right? A lot of anxious people do this. And they're always in this like tightly wound thing, and then things go wrong and they like prove themselves right. So this is proving yourself right in a helpful way, versus people call it like, not self-destruction, self-sabotage. Get my brain together. Like, instead of self-sabotaging, you're like, I don't know, self-successing. Whatever.
Absolutely. And it's as simple as energy flows where intention goes. So your intention, if it's on all the bad, the energy's going there. Hate to tell you, right?
100%.
And hitting on what you said on before, which is people are resistant to changing behavior.
Yeah, it's hard.
Beyond the manifestation and the emotional side of this, it's as simple as, what do you prioritize, right? It's as simple as, what do you prioritize?
How much do people hate when you hold a mirror up to that?
A lot, right? Because a lot of my demographic of clients is these 20-somethings that are like burnt out, ambitious as hell, want to do it all, want to be successful, but are wildly unfulfilled, unhappy, and confused why they feel so lost, and they're comparing themselves to everyone else, and they're like, oh my God, like, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not strong enough. And like, honestly, it's as simple as like, what are you prioritizing? Are you prioritizing your well-being? Do you really want to get from a 5 or a 3 to an 11? Because if you do, right, your well-being, let's take that as an example, is your number one priority, more than your meeting that you're going to show up for and present that, right? It's so simple, but we overcomplicate it.
And here's the irony too, is when you start prioritizing alignment and well-being and whatever it is that you want to prioritize, you show up so much more powerfully because you're grounded, because like people who are in alignment are so magnetic. And the way that so my brain is very visual. The way that I visualize it, and this may make sense to no one but me, but like whatever, is that people who are really in alignment kind of like, they flow through life like they're underwater. Mm-hmm. And they just like go here and it's good, and they go here and it's good. Like my boyfriend will tell you he hates it because he's like, things just happen for you. And I'm like, that's because I do shit all the time. Like I prioritize being in alignment. I built my life around doing what I want to do. Now, to be fair, I had a lot of privilege to be able to do so. So I don't want to have that conversation without also acknowledging the privilege that I had. But anyone can take their direction in a life that is, can take their life in a direction that's more in alignment. Not everyone can want or wants to work for themselves. Not everyone has the freedom to be able to, do whatever they want, whenever they want. I don't have that freedom. But to be able to bring things back into alignment, to be able to go from a 5 to a 7, maybe an 11 is unrealistic because of your schedule, because of life circumstances, but can you bring it closer to what you want? And I'm sure you see it, like, and people who've never done this process, like they don't know how simple, it's not easy, but it's very simple things. 5 push-ups. Think about how you want to go through the day. Look at what you're thinking and where you're putting your energy. What thoughts you pay attention to. Those are very simple things, and they compound so quickly. And you must see it. Like once that gets rolling, it like compounds, and you're just like, yes.
You're making me think of a little story that I experienced when I was working at my old job.
Please.
And it was funny. It was towards the end, and this is when I kind of had figured out that the way I show up and the way that, I integrate my practices that allow me to shine is going to be the way in which I get through this period of time. And so I was on a project that, was a tricky one, and it was out of my wheelhouse of knowledge, and I was spearheading the project. I was leading the project, and I had to lead all the meetings, right? And at the end of the project, someone higher up, came up to me and said, you absolutely crushed this. Like you change our relationship with X, Y, and Z persons. And I smiled because I think X person asked me like what I did or how I did it. And I gave whatever response I gave, but all I did, I kid you not, before every meeting, I sat in meditation and I visualized it, right? Wow. That's it. Yeah. I didn't go read a billion articles on X, Y, and Z. I didn't like try to be the expert of the subject matter. I literally sat in meditation and embodied the kind of woman that would be able to show up powerfully in a meeting. And that's what happened. And so I think that we underestimate the power of getting in alignment and bringing that energy to a situation, because that can change how people receive you.
And it does so many things, but one of the things it does is it grounds you and it makes you feel more confident, because if you're like, oh, I already showed up as this in my mind, then you walk in feeling confident. And I don't know about you, but for me, it is so, I call it Kevining. So we used to have a peacock named Kevin. So I call it peacocking, but his name is Kevin. So I just call it being a Kevin. Like when people are being a Kevin, I'm just like, you're so fake. Like I can feel it radiate off of them. And I'm just like, ugh, like you're so fake. And it feels so gross. But when you're like, oh, I already showed up as this person, I already know it's going to go well. That's such a grounded confidence that it radiates in a really positive way, and people respond to that. And it's like, it's so wild how different grounded confidence versus like fake arrogance is. And I want people to like, just for everyone listening, I just want you to like pay attention and then tell me what you find, because I think it's fascinating when I'm just like, oh, you're fake.
It's true, but I think what it comes down to is like, as humans, like we're more energy than we are matter. We are. So
please explain that, because that's beautiful.
What I mean by that is like, we believe that our physical being, like our arms, our legs, our hands, the things we can touch, is what makes up the majority of who we are. But the reality is we're more energetic particles, right? And we're not going to get too sciencey here, but it's like that there's energy that makes cells attract to one another. So our body is made up of billions of cells, right? Don't
Right.
quote me on the numbers. I'm not a scientist, but
someone correct us. How many cells are in the body?
we are more energy than matter. We are an electromagnetic field, just like two magnets between a piece of paper connect. You know, our body from top to bottom in terms of, you know, our systems, again, the chakra system. Some may know about it, some may not. I'm not going to get into the
We'll do an episode on it.
Yeah.
That would be lovely. I've never had someone come on and talk about it, but that would be fascinating.
It's a whole other thing. But the point is just that we radiate energy because we are energy, and energy attracts energy. And so what you're saying is when you feel somebody being fake or Kevin or whatever you call it, you also feel those people where you meet them and you're like, whoa, like you're magnetic, like your energy.
This is my person.
Yeah, like you feel it. And like that's what we're talking about here. And that's because we are energy. We radiate energy, no matter what kind it is.
Yeah. And I don't know if you see this yet, but I'm fully confident that you will. When people start shifting their own energy, they have it creates a lot of friction with people in their life who drain their energy and who are a very unhealthy energy. And so one of the things that people will come to me for is like, you know, I'm so miserable, but everyone in my life is like this, blah, blah, blah. But once they start shifting and they start prioritizing self-care and living more in alignment and more in their values, like those people will naturally fall away. Like I have a client who they literally were just like, I blocked everyone that I know, and I don't care. Like I feel so much better. And I'm just like internally screaming because I'm like living for it. But that's something that I see often. And I'm wondering if you've seen it yet. And if you want to talk about like why that happens.
Yeah, it is true. I think at the root of it, it's because as we start to awaken to like the possibility of other things, we start seeing through a different lens, and the people around us can't see through that lens. So therefore, there's this push-pull tension that's happening between how you're seeing and how your peers, your close friends, your family members, whoever it is for you, are seeing things. And it's so hard to unsee once you've seen. Right. And so that tension, right, of like, ooh, this no longer serves me. Right. I can now see like why this is out of alignment. That power of seeing is a power, but it's also really tricky because it creates a realization that, hey, this isn't serving me anymore. How can I step away from it? And I want to say, like, what I say to my clients is, it's not like you have to be like, hey, yo, I'm out. No thanks. We were friends for 10 years. I'm all set. Bye. Like, that's not what you have to do. I think what it comes down to is like, if you can get really confident, clear, and empowered in who you are and why you're choosing the path that you're choosing, you can engage with those people and not be impacted or triggered at all by them or their inability to see. And so because it allows you. Yeah, go ahead.
Nope, please keep talking. You're great.
No, I was just going to say it allows you to still engage with those people, but know that the intention behind it isn't to get something out of it. It's to simply either give something to them or just, you know, be in a presence and allow yourself to be kind of encapsulated, right?
And just let it be what it is.
Right. It's as simple as that. Allowing yourself to be.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that I find about that is, again, when people start doing this energy, they start creating a lot better boundaries. So you're right, people's energies won't affect them in the same way. Exactly. Or what'll happen, and here's the other thing I experienced, is it will cause so much friction that eventually they're just like, this person doesn't feel good anymore, which is its own level of scary, because we get comfortable with the people around us and in our circle, and that's so normal. Yeah.
So much.
That's also what we got.
So much good stuff. I feel like
I just like in my brain, I'm just like, this is so good. Yes. So, okay, so you just launched a very cool like morning routine, right? Routine thing.
So with my coaching business, which I'm doing predominantly right now, I'm working one-on-one with clients, but I'm also on the brink of launching my group program, which I'm the most excited about because I think community around this stuff is so valuable, connecting and sharing with others, you know, going through similar things. But as part of that, I just shared this free vibe check, which is...
Okay, I just like die at the name. I literally cackled like a psycho when I saw it. I probably look like a weirdo, but who cares?
No, it's honestly like vibe, that word vibe, vibrant, vibes, all the things. I love it so much. So I thought that it was fitting. But basically what it is what I was talking about earlier, right? It's a way for you to get really present and clear on where you currently are and where you want to be. And it's kind of part of what I coach in my program, but I'm really passionate about allowing people to go and embrace this path of questioning and understanding where they are and where they want to be and have the possibility of something different in the future. And so that's why I wanted to give this to people just as their own resource, you know, like I can work with you anytime coaching you through it, but I think it's so valuable to be even able to start, you know, questioning these things. So that's what it is. It's on my Instagram, which I'm happy to share and like whatnot. I know Amanda said we might link it at the bottom of this, like all
What's
the
your Instagram handle?
At Transform by Tor. And the link's in my bio. So for anybody who's interested, even in the slightest of just kind of doing a little self-check, a vibe check, where you're at, where you want to be.
I'm actually going to do it because it sounds awesome. Yeah. It's always good to have clarity.
It is. A lot of people around me have found it to be incredibly awakening in some way or another. So I think, check it out if you're feeling it. I'm also open to questions if any of you are curious about, you know, how to do it, learning more about it, you know, anything related to it. Shoot me a message. I'm so open to conversing always.
So are you just on Instagram do you have a website? Building out?
I'm just on Insta right now. I have a LinkedIn. You can see it there, but predominantly on Instagram right now. Website's in progress. Working mostly through DMs and phone calls, text conversations, and then, you know, depending on if you're in my program, there's other modes of communication with me. But
dude, nice. So now if someone who's listening to this episode, they're like, oh my God, Tori's so dope. Like, so they would download the free thing, and then I assume you have like an email list that they would be on, so you keep contact with them, and they can message you on Instagram.
Really? Yep. So if you're for some reason interested by the story,
for some reason, girl, because they're brilliant.
Well, if you are interested in connecting more, which I hope you are, because there's so much good stuff. Feel free to, I would say, first step, go to my Instagram at Transform by Tor, and then depending on what you're seeking, like if you want to shoot me a DM, please do reach out. I love conversing with people who are curious about leveling up. But then, you know, also if you're super stoked about this vibe check, I would go just download that and check it out. Those are the two things I would advise you to do.
Lovely. So it's just so good. We keep going forever.
I know.
If you have like one or two things that you want people to remember, right? Because it's a long episode. There was a lot of brilliance, but one or two things where you're just like, if you hear nothing that I say, hear this. What would those things be?
I would say, don't live a life that's someone else's projection of what they think that you're supposed to be. If you feel like you aren't happy, aren't fulfilled, want more, listen to that feeling, because that's your guide to where you're supposed to be going. That's one. Two would be allow the process to unfold as it happens and detach the best you can from the outcome, because the only thing that ever is the present moment. So why not just be in it, right?
Yeah. That is so powerful. Oh, we'll have to do another one about how attachment to the outcome causes suffering.
Oh, so much suffering. I've experienced it firsthand. I'm the first culprit of doing that. So.
We've got a few minutes, actually, if you want to talk about it real quick.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think It's a hard one. And anything I speak about is honestly, truly something that I've learned through experience and I still struggle and work on it. These things are practices. The more that we attach from like the outcome or how things gonna be, the less we can be part of the process of creating it because we're so focused on the end result.
Yeah.
It just completely detaches us.
Yeah. And I think it doesn't leave any room for magic. Like part of the happy space where things end up better than you think they are is that you allow room for things to not go as you planned, which maybe that's like a third thing. So we have like 3 nuts for people, like allow room for the magic to happen, which, oh my God, this will smell good. So dude, thank you so much. Remind us again how we can find you because everyone's brain is a bag of cats and they may have forgotten. So tell us your Instagram handle one more time.
Instagram handle is @transformbytor. If you are interested in the vibe check, it's in the link in my bio. Feel free to fill out your information, your email, your name, all the things. And yeah, I would love to connect with you in any way I can. So thank you for having me on here. It was so fun to talk about these things.
Dude, thank you. So good.
Okay, small correction, y'all. Her Instagram handle is actually @Tori Penta. TORIPENTA. So that is the actual handle. I am just like so proud of you guys for listening and for hanging out with me and for allowing me the space to hang out with you. And I hope you have the most wonderful day. Go live your dream.